Let's have a look at generating PDF tiny house plans with the 3D tiny house designer. The first thing that you need to do when you want to generate plans, you will head over to generate plans up here on the top right. There we go. This will bring up the generate plans settings. You will see a bunch of different general settings come up, as well as all of the different pages that you can export. The plan settings include the dimensions, item labels, joinery icons, and room tags. And basically, this will allow you to enable or disable them, meaning they will or will not show up on your plan. It might make sense for you to disable all of these if you only want to export the floor plans without any dimensions or labels, if you only want to really show off the layout. You can also change the paper size of your export, so you can pick between different standards that work well for tiny homes. So for example, you can pick the A4 or A3 size, or the letter, legal, or ledger size, which are more common in the US. The next part are the pages that I've just mentioned before, and it depends which you can export depending on the license. So you would have fewer if you were on a personal license, and you will have more if you're on a business license. And you can enable or disable these plans. So for example, if you want to export the entire plan set, it would make sense to enable the entire export. Or if you just quickly want to re-export a page to understand if something worked out or not, you can do that in here. So that will cut down the time it takes for you to export your tiny house plans. To then export your plans, all you would have to do is click the Generate Plans button right here. And this does all of the drafting work that you would usually have to do if you were drafting these tiny house plans yourself in, let's say, SketchUp Layout or in Revit. And usually what you would have to do is you would have to set up a page. For every single page, you would have to pick up the scale, the title block, the name of the plan, and then you would have to draw the plan as well. So you would have to pick what view you want to choose and what annotations you want to have. What we have done is we have put together a system that automatically draws plans for any tiny house. So this takes usually 20 hours or so if you would do it manually for a tiny house, and the software does it in maybe 30-45 seconds for you. And I'll show you what the finished exported plan looks like now. So I'll just quickly open the plan in a PDF viewing tool, and you will see that it has now exported a full plan set, which has up to 53 plan pages. And these pages, or the amount of pages, will vary depending on the design and how many objects you have in the software. So what you will see here to get started is the front left isometric and the front right isometric. And basically this is just a isometric to show you how the exterior of the tiny house looks like. And then you have the exterior perspectives, which are very similar, only that these are more from eye level, kind of looking at the tiny house so you can understand what the design looks like in 3D and where everything goes. And this just helps you to understand the floor plan better, because you can interchangeably look at the design in 3D and then also in 2D, especially because if you're showing this to someone who doesn't have the software open, they're still able to understand what the design looks like in 3 dimensions. Then the first thing that you will see after that are the floor plans, and it basically breaks down the entire floor plan of the design and dimensions it properly so you can understand how big everything is and where everything goes. To get started, I'll just quickly zoom into this floor plan here a little bit. So you can see the walls are blacked out, then you have the windows, which are gray rectangles, and then you have labels for every object that you have put down, and the corresponding name to it, of course, as well. You could also see the room tags if you would have put them in here already as well. And then let's have a quick look at the dimensions. So the dimensions are separated into different lines, so things get easier to read. The first line that you will see here that's closest to the walls is the interior wall line. So you would, or the exterior wall line as well. So you have the sides of the exterior wall, and then it automatically picks up on the closest other interior walls here as well. So you can understand where the rooms go. And the design is divided into 4 quadrants, so it doesn't pick up things that are far on this end, but the dimension lines then can pick up things on the other side as well to keep things clean and easier to read. So the first line, to sum that up, is for the interior and exterior walls. And the next line is for the interior walls and cabinets, as well as exterior walls, because that's always part of that, the dimension line here as well. So you will see that it's picked up on the custom bookshelf that we have built. And then you can see the next line here, which goes over to the cabinets, then the spacing between the cabinets, the kitchen, the vanity, as well as the wardrobe, and any furniture items that are not inbuilt. For example, a bed like this wouldn't be picked up because a bed can vary in size and it doesn't necessarily need to be dimensioned. The next line would be the exterior line showing the windows. So first you still have the thickness of the wall because this will help you to understand how far the window is from the interior corner as well. So if you want to measure all the way to the exterior, you would just simply add this up in your head. So this would be exactly 3 feet. Then you have the window or door dimension, and then so on. And then the next line here is the total interior size. So you have the 4 inches for the exterior wall, the total interior size here, and then after that you have the total size of the tiny house. And the order of how those lines are measured always is the same on every single floor plan page. So once you understand what every single of these lines corresponds to, it's quite easy to read these plans. Then after that you have the loft plan showing the loft layout. So the loft is enabled in this time, and you can see the walls in the loft, any beds in here of course as well, and any walls, and it follows the same exact dimension system like before. One thing to notice is that if you have a gable or quite a steep gable that is cutting into the wall and you have some skylights as well, some of these dimensions might also pop up on here, but you can just read between those dimensions to still understand where all of the different walls and windows go. Then we have the roof plan here, and so it's picking up on my window here, or my skylight in this case, where exactly the apex of the roof is, and then how wide the tiny house is, and the same thing is happening here of course as well. So you have the distance to the skylight itself, and then the other distance to the end of the tiny house. Then the next plan that you get is the shell floor plan. The shell floor plan is very similar to the regular floor plan, only that it doesn't have any interior objects. So cabinets or furniture are disabled, but any structural parts are still there. So this will make it easier for you to understand exactly where all of the doors and windows go, and the interior walls as well. So basically everything structural is still in here. Then we go into the next page, which is the same thing but for the mezzanine in this case, or the loft. Then we have the elevations, and the elevations show you the height of the tiny house and the parts of the tiny house that make up the exterior, as well as the dimensions for the doors and windows, so you can understand at what elevation each of those are. And what you'll see here is the door height and the door width here, for example. The skylight isn't picked up on this because this is part of the roof and it's not really part of the side, if that makes sense. And the roof apex is shown on a different plan, so we don't have to worry about the height dimensions here. Then we have the side, which actually does show the total height of the tiny house. So it picks up 11.5 feet here, for example, which is the top of the apex, and then it goes down all the way to the top of the trailer. So the trailer size is not measured in here because it's not really part of the build structure, but of course if you know that you, for example, have a 2-foot trailer, you would understand that this bottom piece here is exactly 2 feet high as well. Then we have the other side here showing the windows again, and then we have the back side here as well. There we go. So the next part are the sections, and the sections basically slice the tiny house in pieces and show you the interior. So it would pick up on all of the cabinets that are placed in here and the heights of those, as well as the lofts that have been placed as well, so you can understand how tall the roofs are and how thick the lofts are, where the walls go, and all that fun stuff. And then we will go down further, which will just show more sections. And then after that we have the shell sections, and it's again like with the shell floor plans, it gets rid of any objects but only leaves the structural objects. And now you can see where the walls go and where the lofts go. So it's really easy to understand that this room here is 6'8" tall, or has the head clearance of 6'8", and then you have a 4-foot loft, and then after that you have a wall that goes on top of that and connects to the top. One thing to keep in mind, if you are cutting through a wall, or the section is cutting through a wall, sometimes the filler pieces that kind of black out the wall don't always show, but in this case the wall would actually go all the way up to the top here as well. Then you have the other sides of the section here as well. So the next part is the window, door, and skylight schedule. And it basically breaks down all of the different doors, windows, and skylights that are in your design and puts them down on a list. And this only includes exterior objects. Interior doors are not included in here. And you can see the ID first, which makes the number of the window or the door or the skylight. And then you have the width and height showing the exterior dimensions of that object, the amount of panels it has, the opening direction. In this case, we haven't set an opening direction yet, so they're all at the bottom still at the moment. Then we have the glazing amount, the jamb finish, the glass finish, the color, the wall thickness, which is currently picked up from the default still, the U value, which is not set, the brand, which isn't set yet, and none of them are set as egress windows yet either, or the notes here, and whether or not the skylight or door or window is an existing skylight, as in it is being reused, that is, so it doesn't have to be manufactured again. So this is what the window and door schedule looks like, and you would usually pass this on to a door and window manufacturer so they know exactly what they need to build. If you have other things that you need to discuss, you can put that into the notes section, and this will show up in here as well. As a quick important thing is, if you are designing to specific requirements or codes, sometimes they need egress windows and they need to be to certain sizes. So the egress window will need to be marked as a, egress window in the first place, and then it also needs to be big enough so it can actually be counted as a proper egress window as well. So that's a bit of a design choice to make there. The next part are the electrical plans. So we will cover the electrical plan in the electrical tutorial as well in more detail, but it just simply shows where the electrical objects are and what electrical objects you have placed, and it counts them in the list here for you. So it's a little bit of a it's schedule to understand how many items you need to finish your electrical design. So each electrical item has the height of where it is placed. So in this case, you can understand that this icon, which would be, I think, the extraction fan, would be at 6'6", just above the cooktop, and then we have a double plug here, which is just at 4 inches next to the bed. So we haven't placed a lot of electrical components here yet, but once you have filled up these components, you would find quite a lot of icons in here. And one other thing that's quite important, if you want to add notes to your objects, so if you want to, for example, talk about something specific for that specific object, they would show up here in the electrical notes as well. And that's more on that in the electrical tutorial as well. Then we have the plumbing tool, or the plumbing plans. At the moment, we haven't drawn any plumbing, so nothing shows up here, so it's an empty plumbing design, so it only shows really the backdrop of the design so far, but these would show up in here as well, and more of that also in the plumbing tool. And then we have the cabinetry plans. So the cabinetry plans would be grouped by the cabinets themselves. So what we'll see here, for example, we have grouped all of these cabinets here. They're ticked as shown on plan, and they're all in group 1. So there we go, not this one here, sorry, this one here, and all of these cabinets over here. So they're all shown on plan and grouped into group number 1. And that means this entire kitchen island will show up on one plan, and you will have an isometric arrangement first. Then you have the plan view, and then you have the elevations, and then you have all of the other groups, of course, as well. So it's just a repeating pattern of all of the groups that you have put in previously, and they show up in here. And there's also more on the cabinetry plans in the cabinet tutorial itself as well. So yeah, those are all of the plans. So basically a drafting job that would usually take 10, 20, 30 hours is done in just a few seconds or in less than a minute. And especially also if you need to make changes in the software, you would move objects and then you would simply re-export the design, and you would generate the plans, and all of those changes automatically update as well. So you don't have to constantly check whether or not the update that you've done in the model is now shown on the plans, because the software automatically drafts this for you. So yeah, that's how the Generate Plans tool works.